Dr. Corsi, thank you for joining me on this brief YouTube broadcast where you and I are helping to spread the word about your new show, Dr. Corsi's Prescription for America. How are you today, Doctor?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's good to be back with you. I just turned off the sound, so
Dr.
I think
Corsi,
it's okay.
Thank you for joining me on this.
That's my fault. Apologize.
There's so many things that can go wrong.
Jason?
We're good. Yes, Doctor. I'm so sorry.
It's all. I clicked the video off on my YouTube screen. I don't think that'll affect the broadcast, does it?
No, the broadcast right now is happening on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, DLive. It's happening on the Dr. Corsi YouTube channel, so people who are watching us now can assist you with Super Chat. I always like to tell people who are viewing the show to visit CorsiNation.com. That's the doctor's free webpage where there's lots of information about Dr. Corsi. He's always writing new articles and giving commentary on important things that conservative-minded viewers are going to be interested in. And so if people aren't familiar with Dr. Corsi, which would shock me, you should definitely get over to CorsiNation.com and check out what he's posting up there. Doctor, anything interesting to share in the wake of the 18th anniversary of September 11th?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it remains a tremendous tragedy. And, of course, I live in New York and New Jersey, and so I recall vividly 9/11, and it was my daughter's first day in kindergarten. I went to have to pick her up in school, bring her home, and I actually could see the burning Twin Tower buildings as they were burning before they came down. And it's just a horrible shock, and the memories are still very vivid. My sympathies go out to all the families who suffered losses that day, and I pray that we never have to suffer another terrorist attack of that nature ever again.
Yeah, and in your book, Nuclear Iran, you anticipated a fictionalized account of the possibility of that type of attack. Isn't that right? I'm not directly familiar with the book.
Yeah. Yeah, the book is called Atomic Iran, and by the way, I just recorded the an audio version of that. I'm not sure it's up yet. I can check it while we're talking here on Amazon. But the book was written in 2005, but it's still so current in terms of what I predicted about happening in Iran. The things I predicted in 2005 are just happening now. I mean, It's pretty amazing. And when I recorded the audio book, which I just did a few weeks ago, I was amazed myself at how current the book still is.
Yeah.
So the audio book, let me just see if it's up yet.
I'm not seeing it. We've got it in hardcover and paperback on Amazon,
yes,
so people can purchase that. You're a prolific author, Doctor, and what you just said was very accurate to my personal recollections of 9/11 as well. It was just a shock. People weren't in the moment immediately analyzing, well, is this true? Is this fake? It was just such a traumatic incident that it was shocking. Now, I also watched the towers burn with my own eyes from the roof of this very apartment building, and I remember being really overwhelmed by the feeling. It never occurred to me while I watched them burn that they would collapse like that. I remember thinking, how are they going to fix that?
Well, I mean, it's the whole thing is such a tragedy, and I suffered through it again yesterday. And the Atomic Iran book is also relevant because we're now going through some major issues with regards to Iran. John Bolton was fired this week, and I'm not altogether unhappy about that. I think John Bolton's strategies were always very confrontive. And I do not think, and I've never thought that war is the best solution. It's not for what we're going through with Iran. War in the Middle East only tends to compound the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. So, that's been the constant theme of what I've talked about Iran is that, yes, the sanctions are working, and the people of Iran want their own government to. The overthrow of the mullahs, I think, is favored by a great percentage of the population in Iran. It's just very hard to get rid of these dictatorial regimes. But a war could be catastrophic in terms of the the Straits of Hormuz, the flow of oil for the world, the chaos that could be caused in the Middle East, including attacks on Israel. So if we can get Iran to step down from nuclear weapons, which I'm sure Donald Trump is going to try to do, it needs to be done, I think, without a war. And I'm praying again that that's going to be the solution. But I'm watching it very carefully. I think John Bolton, just being confrontative with President Trump is really, you want to speak your mind as an advisor, but in the final analysis, the president is the CEO. He's the chief. And the president has to be supported. If you can't support what the president is doing and you can't resolve it in your own conscience, then you really don't deserve to stay. The other big news of the day, and I think this is just tremendously important, is that Andrew McCabe, who is the deputy head of the FBI for a while, I mean, he made a plea to the Department of Justice not to be prosecuted. And today the Department of Justice announced that they're rejecting that plea.
Nice.
So what that means is now the Department of Justice can go directly to the grand jury and can get an indictment against McCabe. I don't think the indictment's yet been handed down. I think it'll take 12 of 23 grand jurors to vote for indictment. It does not have to be unanimous. And my guess is that with the control that the prosecutors usually have over a grand jury, the grand jury will usually do what the prosecutors want. So McCabe has not yet been indicted, but today there was a email sent from the Department of Justice to his attorneys saying that the Department of Justice had rejected the appeal not to prosecute, not to form an indictment. And this U.S. Attorney Jesse Liu, who is very much a supporter of the deep state, had been one of the problematic people in the Department of Justice. She evidently went along with deciding that an indictment was a good idea. So it looks to me like McCabe is going to be indicted for lying. Don't know what the charges in the indictment are going to be yet. We'll have to wait until the indictment actually is brought down by the grand jury. In a federal case, a grand jury has got to recommend the indictment and form the indictment, approve the indictment before the federal prosecutors in the Department of Justice have a case to bring to court. That's the technical way in which it's done.
That's
but this is
news.
A big hurdle.
Yeah.
Well, it's the first time. It's the first time any of these deep state criminals have faced a criminal liability for what I think was a coup d'état. And by the way, that's the book I'm now getting into print right now. I've always called Coup d'Etat, and it'll be out in December. And it's the plan to expose the deep state traitors, and it'll be distributed by Simon & Schuster. You can click it there and you can see it. And that's the book right there. It's on Amazon now, and it should be on Barnes & Noble. It is, I think, the most important book I've ever written. The subtitle, Exposing the Deep State Treason and the Plan to Re-elect President Trump. And I think today this is also foreshadowing what I expect will be Inspector General Horowitz's report on FISA abuse to come out. And I expect that report now to say that all 4 FISA court applications on Carter Page to do electronic surveillance were illegal. Now, this also spells very bad news for James Comey, because he signed 3 of those. And if McCabe is going to be prosecuted, I think Durham and the Department of Justice under Barr are now going to bring these deep state criminals to justice. It certainly has a much better chance of happening than it did or would have had McCabe not been facing indictment. And McCabe, as you recall, was just recently hired by CNN to be a commentator. And so I think, basically that's going to be one of the major comeuppances here of this whole group of deep state operatives within the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the CIA that felt like that they were above the law, and they could rely on this Steele dossier, which they knew to be unverified, to go get electronic surveillance on Donald Trump over this Russia collusion theory, which again was a hoax.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most disgraceful episodes in American history.
Right.
And what I wrote in Killing the Deep State, which is the current bestseller I have out there now, is the take three phases. First, I wrote this in 2017, that Mueller would fail. Well, that's happened. No Russia collusion, and there was no indictment brought on Donald Trump for obstruction of justice. Those all my books. You can see the many I've written. Silent No More is the book I wrote on my experiences with Mueller, which I was not indicted. And then this, if you click the coup d'etat, you'll see the Amazon ad for it. But the point is, the second phase I said would be the Trump counterattack, and I take that to be starting right now. And I think with the Horowitz report, with the Durham prosecutorial efforts in the Department of Justice, I think we will get more indictments.
Yeah, and Doctor, we'll be going into that. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
we'll be going into that in great detail once we get to our Patreon show in just a few moments. So I want to take a minute to remind everyone, if you're not yet subscribed to Dr. Corsi or Crowdsource the Truth, please go over to patreon.com/Jerome Corsi or patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth and become a sponsor. It actually would be great for people to sponsor both pages, because every week on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, you're going to get to see Dr. Corsi's Prescription for America. We've got another episode starting in just about 15 minutes on patreon.com/Jerome Corsi and patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth or subscribestar.com/Crowdsource the Truth. Doctor, I just wanted to ask you very briefly, it's super interesting news about Andrew McCabe. Obviously, we don't know exactly what will happen yet, but it would be great if his CNN show could feature him as a correspondent from inside of jail.
Well, I would suspect that CNN is going to have to suspend his contract. I don't think they want. I don't think McCabe is going to want, when he's under indictment.
Yeah.
Which looks imminent. He's not going to want to be talking, because everything he says could become part of the court case.
Right.
He's already given a lot of interviews. He's written a book. The Horowitz report on McCabe, because remember, Horowitz wrote about a 75-page report on McCabe. He broke the case out, Horowitz did, from the Clinton email, which was the first Horowitz report. And what this broken out report that Horowitz did is Horowitz recommended McCabe for prosecution on the basis of this lying. And when you've got one of the top officials of the Department of Justice, in his position, McCabe's position, which was deputy head of the FBI for a while. I mean, he was right up at number 2. Mm-hmm. Horowitz is going to say that the FBI at the very top was corrupt, politically motivated and corrupt. And he's already, in the report just released a few weeks ago on Comey, with regards to Comey's emails, these personal memos that Comey wrote, all 7 of them, to the file, and then he leaked some of them through his attorney to the press. And again, Horowitz said that was unprofessional, that it was really like saying McCabe and Comey both got dishonorable discharges, as it were, with Horowitz saying they both should have been fired for their misconduct. That's pretty damaging. Mm-hmm. Now I think the next Horowitz report, which is imminent, we're getting, Hannity is saying it will be out in September. I think we'll recommend on these FISA court applications that they were illegal, in which a large number of people are going to be facing criminal indictment, including Comey. Yeah. This afternoon, Comey should be, I don't see any new tweets by Comey. I think he's now properly consulting with his lawyers and finding out what's next for him, and I don't think the prognosis is going to be too good.
Right.
But, Jason, what I was saying, in those 3 phases that I predicted in Killing the Deep State, I think it'll take all this year, and it'll take until November 2020 when we're voting for these prosecutions to wind out, trials to be beginning. And by the end when we vote in November 2020, I think the American people will understand what I'm writing in this next book, this coup d'etat book, namely that that basically this was a coup d'etat, treason. And I think the lead traitors were Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. I think the American public is going to accept that by November 2020. And I mean, that's how I see it unfolding. I mean, I don't have any basis for that other than that's my own intuition of what I see is going forward.
And we'll get into that in depth. Sorry, Doctor. We'll get into that in depth when the show begins on patreon.com/Jerome Corsi, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth in just 15 minutes. We've only got a few more minutes here on YouTube, so before we get into too many more details there, I just want to ask you briefly, going back to John Bolton, he's a very problematic character in my view because his involvement with the Project for the New American Century seems to at least cause speculation that he may have been among those with foreknowledge of September 11th. I wonder, and I know I'm asking for an opinion, Doctor, do you think that Donald Trump's decision to remove Mr. Bolton the day before the 18th anniversary of September 11th, does that have any meaning beyond the obvious, or?
No, I think the whole issue with Bolton had nothing to do with 9/11. I mean, we could also, Mueller's role in 9/11 and the investigation. Right. Mueller has a long history, I think, of deep state operative actions within the Department of Justice, and he was well rewarded by getting private law firm jobs. I think his net worth is something in the range of $8 to $11 million. And these guys, these deep state operatives get well rewarded for playing the deep state game within these agencies. At any rate, Bolton, I think, was strictly a matter of confronting Donald Trump too strongly with recommendations that Trump was not wanting to go along with. Trump's own policies are very strong with regards to China, with regards to Iran, removing, getting out of the deal that Obama had negotiated. And I expect that Trump is going to follow his own policies, which will not be weak. But I don't think Trump wants war. The other thing that happened today is that the House impeachment begins with Nadler and the House Judiciary Committee beginning to set these new rules. It's almost like a fake process. I mean, the enthusiasm to impeach Donald Trump has waned even among Democrats in Congress. And Nadler, I think, is making a fool of himself pursuing it because the rules that he wanted voted on today are so weak that I don't see the House Judiciary Committee really recommending in any serious fashion articles of impeachment to the full House. If they did, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, the re-election campaign is already heating up. Tonight we've got a new debate among the socialist Democrats to see who can be the most socialist among the socialists. And by the way, it came out today also, the Breitbart reported that Elizabeth Warren, one of her great-great-great-grandfathers, worked for a Tennessee militia group. He was white, and he participated in the killing of the Seminole Indians in Florida, which led to the Trail of Tears. So instead of her being an Indian by blood, her real bloodline is to a group of people in the United States who fought the Indians in the Indian Wars in the 1890s.
Wow.
So she's going to have a hard time when that news really circulates.
Yeah.
But at any rate, all of this happening today is, it's been a very big news cycle.
Yeah, and you've just said something critical, Doctor. I'd like to play a quick video clip, and then we're going to dash over to patreon.com/Jerome Corsi and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth for our full presentation. You've used some language that resonates with me. You said it was a fake process. Let's listen to what the gentleman from Ohio said.
To prevent future leaks at the FBI. I hope that after today, Democrats can finally move past this fake impeachment strategy and on to more pressing matters pending consideration before this committee.
Pretty interesting, Doctor, that the gentleman from Ohio agrees with you that this is a fake process. It's language that I've used to describe frivolous, vexatious, and fraudulent lawsuits that have been brought against me. It seems to really disturb the perpetrators of these fake legal actions, but we're out of time here on YouTube.
And one last thing, can I
Yes.
say? I want to the going to Patreon for these is really a twofold strategy. One, I think that YouTube is yet unreliable. I have no idea how much it's being shadow banned or suppressed on YouTube. At least I know on Patreon it's there. We've reduced the price to, I think, the lowest level on Patreon if people want to subscribe. And it also weeds out a lot of the trolls that come on to the YouTube channel. Today has been very good. We have not had trolls, but again, I did heavily announce this teasing that we're doing today on YouTube. But I'm intending to archive a great deal more on Patreon, and I'm hoping that it will stay a stable channel for us. I'm very, very concerned about the amount of censorship of conservatives and Christians, and I think unfortunately, we're going to need government action or legal suits in order to get all these social media channels not to enact this censorship, which I believe is really counter to the First Amendment.
Absolutely, Doctor, and it's a great reason for people to join us on patreon.com/Jerome Corsi, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I think regular viewers are going to remember that it was just a few days ago I was speaking with Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower, who explained the myriad ways that YouTube and Google are suppressing this information. So it's critically important for people to join us on these alternate platforms where a really small financial payment helps eliminate a lot of these problems that have been set up by YouTube providing us with a quote-unquote free platform. So, Doctor, I'll see you in just 7 minutes on Patreon. Thanks for joining me, and thanks, everybody. We'll see you there.